Good morning and welcome to Octane's first annual Partner Summit. My name is Janelle Brunette, Chief Administrative Officer at Octane. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you here today. For our first annual event, we had over 500 individuals register and another 160 are watching via live stream. The purpose of today's summit is to not only inform you of what Octane is doing for our innovation ecosystem, but also to share how you can get engaged. With your support and engagement, we are able to strengthen our collective impact and fulfill our mission of connecting people, resources, and capital, and creating 55,000 high-paying technology jobs in Southern California by 2030. Before we get started, I first want to express my deep gratitude to the 51 Octane annual partners that make this possible. I also want to recognize the annual partners that have been part of our organization for the past 5, 10, and 15 years. Our 5-year annual partners include Aerie Pharmaceuticals, City of Aliso Viejo, JLL, Microvention Terumo, RSM, UCI Beal Applied Innovation, Visionary Venture Fund, and Zeiss. Our 10-year partners include BioQuest, a diversified search company, Deloitte, Experian, Greater Irvine Chamber, Kofax, Medtronic, SBA, SBDC, and Stuart Kane. And finally, our 15-year partners include Allergan and Allergan Aesthetics, both AbbVie companies, Canada Consulate General, Chapman University, Edwards Life Sciences, Edwards Life Sciences Foundation, EY, Fragment Worldwide, J&J Vision, K&L Gates, Kenobi Martins, PwC, Stradling, TechSpace, and Western Digital. Thank you again for your continued support and confidence in Octane. Now I'd like to welcome Bill Carpue, Octane's CEO, to share our 2020 highlights and our 2021 vision forward.
Thanks, Janelle, and all those organizations for their multi-year support of Octane and their investment into our community. Welcome, everyone. Our theme for the next 90 minutes is inform and engage. Inform you of the progress made together and provide opportunities for everyone interested in innovation and investment to engage and be part of this journey. Engagement could be mentoring, learning, providing content, participation, speaking, and of course, as a nonprofit, financial support. This morning, we released our 2021 Impact Report, which recaps the year just concluded and takes a thoughtful and strategic look ahead to a year filled with potential and promise. This journey is too steep for any single organization, so you will hear of the collective impact many of our partner organizations are creating, so together we reach meaningful milestones faster and with greater impact to celebrate. UCI Beal Applied Innovation Center, Chapman Leatherby, Alliance for Southern California Innovation, LSI, and CLA are just a few of those organizations. We have many initiatives in place with each other. One we will speak directly about is regarding AI. Both Octane and CLA are helping together activate a strategy with broad engagement across a multiple number of companies and supporting organizations. That's collaboration. Since 2020, I mean, let's call this year what it is. I mean, what a crazy year. And since that, we've dealt with one crisis after another: job losses, work at home, isolation, critical social issues, virtual schooling for those that parent and work at the same time, and the list goes on. During the past year, I think we've seen the best and worst come out in us and everybody as individuals. Those are profound illustrations that shared interest truly defeats self-interest. For Octane, 2020 was an interesting year. It was about transforming and evolving to serve those who rely on us and those invested in us. What we learned as a team was to listen more than we speak, to practice empathy, and seek perspective, not to affirm, but to challenge our thinking. Today you will hear from a variety of individuals, both inside and outside Octane, including 3 very prominent industry and community leaders who will join me shortly. Additionally, you will hear from some new members of the Octane team as they discuss their areas of responsibility. Finally, we'll close the session meeting with Dr. Anthony Chang and Neil Sahota, who will provide a description of an important strategic initiative designed to develop a global hub of innovation for AI across Southern California. Health.ai will have a goal for OC to become the healthiest county in the country, measured by AI. So let me talk about our 4 cornerstones. They haven't changed for the past 2 years, and we just continue to improve and make greater impact on each one. So I'd like to review the 2020 progress and let you know where we are headed for each. The first in the upper right-hand column is Octane Connect. Basically, what we're doing here is connecting people, resources, and capital. We're grounded in our signature events, and I think up until last year, we viewed events as something very key. What we learned through this was that the events were just a channel of distribution for our content. So we quickly pivoted or adjusted ourselves to become a content creator. What we found was moving to a virtual platform, we had record attendance at all of our events. We drew a broader and wider, diverse, I guess I could call it, attendance and attendees from way beyond just Orange County and Southern California. And in that, we learned what virtual presentations needed to look like. So I'm thrilled that this year, in 2021, we will redefine or define for ourselves really what hybrid is. There is no definition of hybrid in terms of an event. So we started the year with our aesthetics conference, which was completely hybrid, or I'm sorry, it's completely virtual. And our next event is in May, which will be our Technology Innovation Forum. And we're looking at this and saying, as we progress through the year, we believe that we'll be able to invite and welcome more people back in person over the course of the year, culminating in October with our medical technology event that we hope will be welcoming quite a few people back. So it'll be a progression versus just flipping the switch on and off. Octane Connect is also responsible for the creation of these 55,000 jobs that Janelle mentioned earlier. So I'd like to report that in 2020 we produced, and these are basically companies that have come out of Launchpad, what they did as they come out, and the subsequent job growth and impact that those companies have on the community in the years following. So Launchpad companies, and there's about 677 of them, created an additional 3,266 jobs in 2020. Those are direct jobs, as audited by Deloitte, and that brings us to a little over 17,000 jobs since the inception of tracking this goal, and we're slightly ahead of where we need to be on a trajectory to meet that 55,000 number. OFI on the bottom right is really about building community, jobs, and assuring equity and diversity for company founders. It's anchored by Launchpad, which I'll talk about in a moment, but there's also 4 very important community initiatives that now Linda DeMario is running and leading for us. Linda, as many of you know, was an executive vice president at the Irvine Chamber, and she remains connected with the Chamber and is doing consulting here for Octane. Those 4 are Women Leaders, Nonprofit Accelerator, STEM Fellows, and Next Gen. Women Leaders started with the premise that women founders represent over 50% of new company starts, yet only receive about 3% of the venture funding. It's moved on to helping with board roles, mentoring, and just expanding a network. So we're very appreciative for the people that have become part of that. Our Nonprofit Accelerator is supported by a grant from the Edwards Life Sciences Foundation and Amanda Fowler. And really what we have done here is we've worked with 14 nonprofits over the past year and a half to help them operationalize themselves and bring them to a level of greater performance and greater impact on the community. Our STEM Fellows is made possible by a grant from the Broadcom Foundation and is integral in our relationships with the university ecosystem that covers all of Southern California. And Next Gen is still relatively new, and what we intend to do here is activate both Gen Z and millennials. We'd like to retain as many that we can, and so And with that, even more importantly, is who are the next leaders? We know we've got a lot of industry leaders, but who are the next community leaders that step in as others, maybe move into retirement? Let me talk about Launchpad for a second. Launchpad SBDC, 60 companies went through the process in 2020. It brings the total to 677 companies since 2010. Collectively, those companies have raised $2.85 billion. And in 2020, Launchpad companies, both initial and subsequent rounds, raised $445 million. There was an additional $164 million by companies affiliated but not having gone through the Launchpad process, where Octane may have helped. The unusual piece, and we'll talk a bit more about this, and it's obviously one of the things that Dick Oshnower and the OC Master Fund is trying to solve, is 97% of that funding came from outside Southern California. So Dave Beck will talk to you in a moment about Launchpad and the impact that that has. Actually, not a moment, in a few minutes. And Dave just joined us 3 weeks ago from Cognizant and is the new director of Launchpad and Investor Relations. And before I move on, I just want to tell everybody, JC has been appointed as fund manager, so it's a great move for JC, and we're happy to have Dave join our team. The third is capital, and as I mentioned before, there's only about 13% of the capital required to fund companies in Southern California. So what I mean by that is if collectively startups were looking to raise $1 billion, only $130 million of it is headquartered in Southern California. Paul Tobin will discuss our relationships with strategic and institutional ventures, things that we could lead in terms of syndication funding and relationships, our private investor network, the establishment of mid-market private equity firms to provide liquidity and M&A, and the relationships we have with local organizations and local funds such as Visionary Ventures, the OC Master Fund, Miramar Venture Partners, Co-Fund, and Octane. And Elevation Ventures, which we will be announcing shortly, is our new segue into bringing capital here in Orange County and having it headquartered in KC Ruffalo. A little bit later, we'll discuss that new fund and that new opportunity. And the last of our four cornerstones is enterprise solutions. It's basically accelerating speed to capital and growth resources. And Carol will talk about that. Finally, our plan to unleash collective impact focuses on our 5 core strategic imperatives, applied across all areas of Octane. They create jobs, they build community engagement, and provide capital to early stage and growth companies. The 5 imperatives are: accelerate business formation and growth by leveraging Launchpad to build companies that create high-paying jobs. Create alternative services to build sustainability for these companies by aligning resources to build company momentum, velocity, and growth. Grow core operations, and this is Octane Connect, by expanding content distribution beyond Southern California, deepen relationships, and grow value for all those that depend on us. Convene and empower the ecosystem by utilizing all of our resources to lead with content and access to both expertise and capital while working strategically, very strategically, with high-value partnerships. And the last of our strategic imperatives, and these are the 5 that make up our own internal strategic plan, would be the expansion of the Octane brand by helping build recognition for Orange County as a global hub of innovation and company creation in those industries we serve. Our measurement of success is job creation, community impact, and capital access. 3 very important metrics. Our vision forward and dedication to the mission of innovation and economic prosperity is inseparable from our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is critical to ensuring that each member of our community has the full opportunity to thrive and flourish. At Octane, we believe diversity of all types, experience, industry, education, relationships, all of those are central to the advancement of knowledge and shared outcomes. So I now would like to welcome 3 industry and community leaders to discuss the state of innovation in Orange County. Please say hello to Emil Haddad, Chairman and CEO of 5 Point, Mike Masalam, Chairman and CEO of Edwards Life Sciences, and Jim Mazo, President and CEO of Avellino and the current Chairman of Octane. Welcome, guys.
Hello, Bill.
Emil, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
We need Mike and Jim to click in.
They're slow.
They're there. I'm here.
Here we are.
Can you hear me okay?
We could hear you fine. Good. So, Emil, let me come to you first. We talk about what's really needed for Orange County to become the center of innovation that we've talked about for years.
Well, I mean, and let's start with what we have, and then start looking for what we need and where the potential hurdles might be. I think if you look at Orange County, we are positioned extremely well to launch into the future as a very prominent region. We have 13 universities, 13 colleges, 2 airports. We have a system of roads that is fairly new, and as much as people might get frustrated sitting in traffic for a little bit, but when you really look at it and compare it to the other cities we're competing with, whether it's San Francisco, New York, Boston, we're still in much better shape. We have a housing situation that is much better than those cities as well. Not we can do better than that, but we're still in a much better shape from a housing point of view. And as a matter of fact, what's happened in the last 12 months with the COVID has actually made Orange County even more attractive. We're starting to see buyers coming from San Francisco and Los Angeles today into the Great Park, people who now believe that they're going to be able to work more out of their homes. And you have situations happening inside these cities with some petty crimes and things like that that's starting to get people concerned. We also have to realize that when we talk about the millennials, 10 years ago, they were 20 to 30. Today, they're 30 to 40. So they're starting to form families, and that's going to make it more attractive for them to look for places like Orange County. And then, this is home to some of the biggest 500 firms. And if you draw a radius of 50 to 60 miles, now you're expanding it to 7 airports and some of the biggest universities in probably the world. So we have it. We have the infrastructure for it. What do we need? First of all, I think we need an ecosystem that starts attracting innovators into that ecosystem. And that's what, Bill, that's what you and I have been talking about. That's the partnership we announced, is a partnership between us and Octane to start developing that ecosystem. If you look today at where we are, and I think it's a mistake for us to define that ecosystem by a county or by city, because we're 35 cities. Every city marches to their own drum. And if you look at a model that has been successful in this city, you look at Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley started as a club in a garage and then grew into a region that's not defined by anything that relates into a box of a city or county. And that's what we're trying to do here at the Great Park together. You're coming over, Octane is moving to be our partner. We're locating over here. We've spent now 10 years building the infrastructure here that we believe is needed, from public education, housing, City of Hope, and others are coming in. I think we're starting to create a seed of that ecosystem that can grow from here. What we need.
I was just going to say, I think all your points are right on the money. And what we're seeing too is the evidence that in some of the bigger cities, people are migrating out. Yeah, I think that's just such an enormous opportunity for us in the future, because this is the place to live, Southern California, if you want to come out of the congestion of some of the cities. Absolutely.
Really quickly, I mean, look, what we also need is we need to stop being boring, because I think that you're not going to attract the talent that is going to be the talent in innovation when every restaurant shuts down at 10 o'clock and every bar shuts down at 9 o'clock. And this is not a generation that's looking to go get drunk or anything, but I think this is a generation that's doing away with the silo of time of 9 to 5 and everything else that we grew up with. They want to still be in a think tank while they're having drinks and eating at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I think we need to start thinking that. And as you know, that's been a big focus of us as a company. We need public policy that start thinking decades ahead, not 2 years ahead. We need to have leaders that start actually challenging the existing policies, whether it is in parking, zoning, whether it's preparing for autonomous cars. We need public-private partnerships that start drafting the strategy for taking Orange County into the future and overseeing its implementation. And this is not Dubai. We don't have a system over here that is I have envisioned it, I fund it, and I build it as a government. And we have to work together, public and private. I think those are the things needed. Today, we need to then go ahead and start launching a global campaign to brand that, to bring people to understand that Orange County is not a bedroom community anymore. It's a big economy. It's the 6th largest economy in the country, and it's the 45th largest and standalone globally. That's meaningful. So what's the opportunity? I think healthcare, life science, ophthalmology, AI, there's an intersection between all of those, and we could become the intersection of all of that. What's the biggest hurdle we have? I think we need to get past the fact that things are good in Orange County and people are happy, and therefore we don't need to change. The first part of that statement is true. The second part of the statement is very dangerous, because if we do not start thinking about changing with the world that's changing so rapidly and morphing from an industrial revolution economy to a digital revolution economy, we're going to find ourselves obsolete. And the big question we have to ask ourselves in the future, for the future, is do we want to be the Sears of the future or the Amazon of the future?
Amazon. All right, that's, you know, what great perspective on that. And you know, you're a great partner, 5 Point is, and you know, I think everything you said really makes a whole lot of sense. And so, you know, part of this is really activating, and as I like to say, getting people off of the sidelines and onto the playing field. And Mike, I mean, you know, maybe coming to you guys at Edwards, just I mean, you really set like kind of a gold standard in terms of community engagement. But I'd really like to hear your thoughts on having built such a great public company here, and maybe accessing talent. Emil mentioned talent. I mean, how do you find it? How do you know? Is it coming out of the university? Is it the right pace? And you know, what's Edwards' philosophy on that strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. It's a pleasure to be with you and with my friends here. Yeah, you know, we've been a publicly traded company for 20 years now, but if you actually go back, Edwards' roots goes back decades before that, even back to 1960. And so we've got deep roots in Orange County. We're fortunate to be successful and love to be able to give back to the community. Our company is really, we call it our patient-focused innovation. We're aggressive investors in R&D, and a lot of our R&D happens right here in Irvine. So we've been fortunate. We've been growing, you know, double digits over a long period of time. And actually, even last year, in a tough year, we added about 1,000 employees around the world to 15,000 now. If you look at where the talent comes from, of course, we have the specialized jobs where we get experienced people. And then we have the more technician jobs and administration jobs that are more local. But there's these high value jobs that are in the middle where we go out to universities around the country primarily. And we have about 20 places that we have preferred relationships with, and we hire from there. To be able to attract the right kind of talent makes the difference in whether you have a successful company or not. So being able to attract talent is so important. And we've been fortunate to be able to do that. And people love to come to Orange County. We found it to be very successful for us. It's important for us not to lose them later and so forth. But, you know, when you really dig a little deeper into it, what you find here is here we are going out and bringing people to Orange County, you know, the best and the brightest. But at the same time, here we are cranking out unbelievable talent, great science, technology, engineering, and math talent right here in Orange County. And it's leaving to take jobs elsewhere because they're not even aware that there are great opportunities right here in Orange County. So we're missing an opportunity. I would say right now, maybe a quarter of that talent that we hire is local. It could be higher, maybe should be higher. You know, why not? So that's the power of folks like us talking to each other and working together. How do we take that incredibly strong educational system that includes some great universities and team it together with the business community and team it together with the financial resources and something to really create value like we haven't in the past. I would argue that, you know, before places like Octane was formed, we didn't talk to each other very much. We kind of operated in silos. I wouldn't typically be on a call with Emil talking about things, and now we do that kind of thing routinely. and it really makes a difference.
And I know how Emil talks about things too, is it's this bumping into people and everything. And I think that's the component that's really starting to come together here, and what I've seen. You know, one of the, you make a great point, Mike, is that we graduate more computer scientists and more engineers than any other place in the country. And when I say we, meaning Southern California, the Southern California ecosystem. Yet we do lose a lot. And we've got great talent, and there just seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between those that are rolling out of the universities and those that are hiring. And you know, that's a piece that we've got to kind of squish here a little bit. And
that's kind of, you're right, Bill. That's on all of us. So if organizations like ours define, here's the talent that we're going to need for the future, and we share that with the universities, they'd be very motivated to create that talent, right? And they can anticipate those needs and then actually make the connections afterwards. So there's an opportunity for us to do better. We do pretty well. We could do better.
I agree. Jim, let's get you in the conversation here, and you know, really want to talk about what's important for smaller companies to grow and position themselves in Orange County. And you know, you've had such a diverse background in terms of bigger companies and more recently smaller ones. What's important, and how do we build that here?
Well, I think the most important thing is that Emil said he's going to have the bars open past 9. So I think that's going to be a very attractive counter for these small companies right there.
Spoken as a true Italian.
Exactly. So I appreciate that, because that's going to attract these entrepreneurs right off the bat. I can tell you that.
I've gotten a couple of messages here in the chat board saying Emil for OC supervisor. So
and then Mike. Now,
what did I do wrong?
So my buddy Emil is going to open the bars, and Mike probably, based on his comments, just got 1,000 CVs sent to him personally because he's going to hire him. So I'll go right to your point about smaller companies. You know, when Mike, myself, and Tom Obis and others started Octane, the whole concept was what Mike was talking about. We have these unbelievable minds, but they were going south and north. So we need to make sure that they stay. So the good news here is we've never been a lack of talent from a standpoint of an entrepreneur. It's not like we have to try to get the entrepreneurs here. I think what Mike and Emil are saying, we've got to keep them here. But what's important for an entrepreneur is in many ways, identify their customer type. I think if you're going to be successful for these small companies, we need to ensure that there's a realism to what they have. You know, when we do Launchpad, Bill, I sit into these Launchpad companies, and sometimes I say, where's the realism of what's the plan? Because if you have a realism to your plan here, and you can, I'll just speak for my industry and Mike's, med tech, it's a plethora of opportunity. What is going to be your significant difference? And then link up with great teaching institutions. Think of all the teaching institutions we have in our backyard, as Mike was talking about, Emil was talking about. If you can link with them, they're also going to be able to provide you a resource to accelerate your technology. But I do want to go back to breed talent, show talent that they have an opportunity to succeed here based on what my two buddies have said. But then at the end of the day, we've got to surround them with experience. And I know that's what we're doing. I mean, you know, if you get a chance to talk to Mike or Emil, that experience alone will help us keep these small companies and be successful. So that's that program about mentoring, Bill, that we've talked about. And that's what the Octane board is doing. We want to mentor these young entrepreneurs. So I'm just going to summarize real quickly. It's not a lack of minds. It's a lack of ability to properly align with resources that we have here in Orange County. And I know we can continue to be successful. We just need to accelerate these minds and surround them with all the resources that we have, and open the bars past 9.
What about capital? I mean, again, having been with some smaller companies, I talk a little bit about the capital deficiency and everything, but how do we bring more capital here?
Well, I'll jump on that and I'll let these two guys, you know, now that I'm kind of, I've got 7 companies that I'm dealing with, and I'm also, advising Bain. I would tell you that I've never come across where they said, oh, who's Orange County? Or what's successful? Obviously, they go right to Edwards Life Sciences and, know about Mike. But I've never had where capital has said, I've never heard of your environment. So I think it's actually our fault on not really accessing capital as much as we can, because people are willing to come here. This is the medtech haven. What is it, Mikey? The third largest one next to Boston and Minneapolis?
It's on a short list, yeah.
Okay, so where is capital going? Healthcare. Where's healthcare going? MedTech. We're the third largest. Oh, bad on us. And with Emil providing that type of resource with his physical environment, and Mike providing the resource of large companies and teaching institutions, it's our challenge to do it. And that's why, what you're doing, Bill, is really powerful, because that's why we can bring it. It's not going to be a problem to bring capital here. We've got to, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. We have the resources. We just got to cultivate it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. And as I said in my opening comments, I mean, last year was a record year for bringing capital in for companies, and we'd like more of it to be headquartered here, so those investment results stay here and get reinvested back in the community. But we see a big portion of the capital that we help bring in come from New York or Boston, and Boston specifically, for MedTech. And as I mentioned, going back to the opening comments, we only have 13% of what we need here in Southern California. Boston's got about 5 times the amount of the ideas that they've got. So if they require $1 billion, they require a lot more than that, but just using it as an example, there's actually $5 billion of venture money sitting in Boston by LPs in that New England area. And so they've got to come outside of the area, and a lot of them are choosing the innovation that's going on in Orange County and across Southern California.
Just to build on that, and Jim experiences this firsthand with his companies that he's birthing all the time. But capital is trying to get a return, and they will go anywhere to find it. If we have great companies, great entrepreneurs loaded with talent, capital is going to find their way here. But we also know when it comes to venture capital, venture capitalists would prefer to invest locally. And so to have some more local venture capital only helps us get this flywheel going faster. We do pretty well. We could do better if we had more local capital. And I think that's part of the drive that Octane has and others here to really get that flywheel moving and to get even more capital locally than we've had in the past.
And by the way, Bill, sorry, 30 seconds. I see a comment that said we need to get past MedTech, and Joe, I'm saying healthcare, Joe. I'm not just saying MedTech. We have a healthcare. Look at what Emil's done with City of Hope in your backyard. It's healthcare. Go ahead, Emil. Sorry, buddy.
No, I was going to say, I think, to answer really quickly Bill's point, we're very fragmented. We have not had a group like this that started coming together and say, okay, we're going to now take a leadership role in this area to start making sure that the world thinks of Orange County the way Orange County is, rather than a bedroom community. Because look, for the last 40 years, we've done an amazing job going from a bedroom community to LA to becoming a major economy. And credit Donald Brennan and others for doing that. But that was for a different economy, for a different demographics. Now what we need to do is think about the demographics going forward, the economy going forward, and start educating the world that this is not your dad's Buick.
You're exactly right, and it's a different time and a different place. There's a variety of questions that have come in. We're not going to have time. We've got about 3 minutes left in this section, and maybe I'd like to just ask each of you for a minute. I'm going to ask this one. What's the biggest lesson you learned in 2020? Mike, maybe start with you. And Jim.
I'm happy to start. Well, I learned a lot of humility. You go into the year with a game plan, and then be prepared to change your plan, because we know that the world is changing faster all the time. If we ever proved it, it was in 2020. So the ability to be agile, change plans, and I guess the other thing I learned is, independent of our strategy and our tactics, if you have a great culture and people know what to do, it's amazing their adaptability. And so I learned a real lesson about the power of culture during the year.
I'll say the one main thing that I've learned is when I hear after 3 months of this pandemic, companies going under, that fundamentally the principles of the company had challenges. And you know, when you get a real stress test like what happens, you know if you're fundamentally strong from a business perspective. And I think that teaches you to be fundamentally strong on how you run your business, because this stuff will happen, could happen again. But as Mike was saying, what I think encouraged a lot of people is that people really engaged to create the company culture to make the company survive. I loved hearing when people said, I'm going to show up, I'm going to work, I'll do what's necessary to make my company survive.
Look, I mean, for me, you know, this was sort of a reminder of 11 years I lived in Civil War, where I lived in conditions that are very similar to these conditions, where it's very unnatural to human nature, and there's a lot of scare and all that. And I was reminded that periods like that differentiate people. It brings the best in people and the worst in people. And these are the periods that not only differentiate us at the moment, but they define us as to who we're going to be going forward. And that's how I think, that's why it's so important in a period like this to realize that you can't let selfishness, sense of entitlements, or even fear take over. Because as this period is going to be over, you're going to be defined by your action during this period.
And it's about selflessness, I think.
Exactly.
You know,
that's what it is. I mean,
all of us learn.
You got to think laterally. You got to think laterally in difficult situations.
So I want to wrap up, guys. Here we're gonna move ahead, you know, with the program today. But I want to thank you all. I mean, each of them creates such an inspiration for Octane, but for really the broader community. And you know, we appreciate everything you do, and I know everybody on this, you know, attending today does. So Emil, Mike, Jim, thank you very much.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you, because what you're doing is so critical right now. And you're basically the collaborator. You're helping us all come together. This is a good example of it, but I know how much we spend time. And this is only scratching the surface. So thank you and Octane for what you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I think we're going to move to Rita and Kara on you know, to discuss our signature events. Bring them up right now. Thank you, everyone.
Rita, you're on mute.
There we go. Okay. Hi again, starting over. Hello, my name is Rita Batacchio, head of events at Octane, and I oversee all the events at Octane. It will come as no surprise that 2020 was an interesting and challenging year for events. But in true Octane fashion, we pivoted to ensure that we provide the same quality content and experiences at our events. Octane is a curator and provider of content. As Bill mentioned, in 2020, we saw more participation and engagement in our events. In 2021, we plan to continue the momentum from 2020. We will continue to evaluate and pivot as the world begins to open back up on how best to provide experiences at our events. I'm now going to turn it over to Kara Parchment, who will speak to us regarding OTS and ATS.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Parchment. I'm the Signature Events Manager for Aesthetics Tech Summit and Ophthalmology Tech Summit. This year, as Rita mentioned, we had to pivot to a fully digital experience for all of our signature events, including ophthalmology, which happened to be our first digital experience that we held in August. And as you can see, we have our dates for 2021, which are July 8th through the 10th at the Balboa Bay Resort. This year, we almost doubled our attendance from 2018 during our virtual conference. And in January 2021, we hosted our second annual Aesthetics Tech Summit, which featured a keynote from David Pyatt. This event saw an 88% total growth from 2020. And we are currently planning on having the event on January 2022 at the Balboa Bay Resort. So yes, I look forward to seeing you all there. And back to Rita.
Thanks, Kara. Next up is the Tech Innovation Forum. It presented a challenge to us as there is still so much unknown in May. So we decided to create an Octane version of hybrid events. This means we'll be hosting 3 in-person events surrounding the May 18th and 19th dates. We'll have a cocktail reception and 2 breakfast events. These events will be outside and follow whatever guidelines are in place. We heard feedback from many that they want to get back to meeting in person. The content will be streamed on our platform as we have done the past year. We are determined that everyone attending will have the same experience viewing content. Our theme for TIFF this year is next. What is next? The pandemic accelerated innovation in many industries, and we plan to explore some of them at TIFF this year. We will cover the EV space, semiconductors, clean tech, entertainment, gaming, and AI, to name a few. Next up, after that, we have the High Tech Awards, which are scheduled for September 23rd at the Balboa Bay Resort. Nominations are open right now. We have 10 categories, and they're open through April 16th. If you know of any great companies that should be nominated, please let us know. We want to get them involved. It is a great evening event celebrating innovation in medtech and tech in the ecosystem. Lastly, we have the MedTech Innovation Forum, which is scheduled for October 29th and 28th and 29th at AV Irvine. We're currently in the middle of agenda planning and are planning to have MTIF be in person with a virtual component. We are planning our events based on what we know now, lessons learned from the past year, and we are prepared to welcome everyone back in person when it is safe to do so. Please join us at one or all of our events this year. Next, I want to welcome Paul Tobin and Carol DeStanislow up to the stage.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rita, and welcome everyone. It's great to see so many people here for our first partner summit. Before I get into what Octane Enterprise Solutions does, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why Octane Enterprise Solutions exists. As you'll see throughout the program today, the ecosystem needs more and more from Octane, and Octane wants to provide more and more things to the ecosystem. To do that, that takes resources. So we started Octane Enterprise Solutions in order to earn money from consulting services to companies that bring in profit. That profit goes back into Octane, and we have the resources to fulfill all the things that the ecosystem wants from us. So the more you use OES, the more Octane can do for you and for the ecosystem. Now, in terms of what OES actually does, we do 3 things at the moment. The first is capital formation. So we help the launchpad stars of each year get rounds of funding by introducing them to various kinds of capital sources. We help them host the launchpad program, make any refinements that they need, and we help them with due diligence, everything that maybe a first-time entrepreneur needs to actually close that institutional funding round. The second thing we do, and this is new, is we have CEO and emerging leader peer groups. Right now, we have a few more spots left in our first CEO peer group, which is called the Mavericks peer group. We named them after surf breaks because of the surfing culture of Orange County. And Earl Sleeve, formerly of Medtronic, is the chair of that group. So the CEOs get to collaborate with each other and also with Earl in one-on-one meetings every month. And you get the kind of support that you can't get anywhere else. So if anyone is interested in joining the Maverick peer group or a future peer group, please let us know and we'll connect you with Earl. He's had the whole experience that most CEOs want. He's been a founder of a startup, grown it to $1 billion business, sold it to a multi-billion-dollar company, and then been a key executive at that company. So I think he's a great chair for that. The third thing that we do at OES is we have OPAs, Octane Preferred Advisors. And that's basically operational support for companies at all stages of their development. And I'm going to welcome Carol DeStanislao, who runs this for OES, to tell you a little bit more about that. Carol?
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the introduction. As Paul mentioned, OES has gathered an impressive group of best-in-class vetted service providers called Octane Preferred Advisors, or OPAs. We've created this platform really to replicate a portfolio operational resources suite that sits within a private equity firm. And my role is to align companies, whether they be startups, mid-market, or large corporations, with our operational partners through strategic introductions based on future and current needs. Our OPAs specialize in a variety of industries that range anywhere from human resources to human capital management, payroll administration, risk management, tenant representation for office space, talent acquisition from the CEO level on down, non-dilutive funding, digital marketing, and many, many more. These strategic resources help to drive efforts, increase revenue, gain cost efficiencies, and instill operational excellence, which helps companies move faster towards growth and a potential M&A. There's no cost for companies to access our OPAs, and in fact, besides their areas of expertise and offering exclusive programs to Octane affiliated companies, the strength of our providers comes from being entrepreneurial friendly and cost efficient. And more importantly, they support Octane's goal to provide growth resources to our ecosystem. With that, I encourage all of you to use OES and me as your go-to resource. The power of Octane and its reach is tremendous, and OES can be the center point to connect you to our community. The result is not only to help your own organization, but to help our ecosystem and Octane continue to grow. We thank you all for your ongoing support. And Paul, I'm going to turn it back over to you to mention a few more things about OES that I know will be of great value. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Carol. That's a great outline of our OPAs and their capabilities. I just want to focus on one more type of OPA that Carol didn't mention. That's investment banks. We've got a number of investment banking partners. They are various sizes from boutique to global. When your companies use investment banking services, obviously that's usually a big ticket item. If you can let us make those introductions, your use of one of our investment banking OPAs once a year could give Octane so many more resources to do all the things that we're going to talk about. So please, if you don't have to tell us what you need the investment bank for, but if you could just tell us that you need an investment bank, we can match you to one of our providers, and if you use them, that would obviously be really good for OES and then onward into Octane, and we can do more and more from those very large transactions. So please keep us in mind when you need an investment bank. Obviously, when OES makes money and we put it over into Octane, we can fund resources for programs like those that are in our Octane Foundation for Innovation. And we can recruit wonderful people like the lady that I'd like to introduce next, Linda DeMario. She's going to tell you more about OFI. Linda?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a very special opportunity for me to become involved with Octane to help lead the 4 initiatives that were launched under the Octane Foundation for Innovation, or OFI. The vision of Octane's leadership for the foundation was to extend the impact of their work into the community in ways that would strengthen the innovation ecosystem, grow its life science and technology sectors, build a diverse workforce, and enhance the OC live-work experience. So they plunged in and launched 4 very inspiring initiatives. And I'd like to share those with you now. Each one of the 4 initiatives begins with an overarching statement of purpose. That's to grow the strength and impact of the OC innovation ecosystem. And the Women Leaders of Octane was one of the first initiatives launched. And thanks to very capable volunteer leadership and expert assistance by Octane staff, they laid a really excellent groundwork. We have a terrific platform upon which to build our work for 2021 looking forward. There are 4 primary goals that they identified. And as I said, they laid some great groundwork that we're just going to supercharge now. Entrepreneurs, we just simply want more women entrepreneurs. We ask your help in that. When you have the opportunity to come about, find a young woman that is in a startup or is in a woman-owned company and wants to take it to the next stage, we want to know about that woman. We want to make sure that she is in our pipeline and one of the candidates that we can work with to grow as a growth strategy. Women on boards, more influence of women on boards, public and private sector. And the women over the last year have put a lot of work into assembling a list to begin helping those women identify their opportunities with boards in Orange County and throughout Southern California. So we're going to, again, expand on that and start with a series of informative webinars featuring women who are in board positions and ask them to engage with those women and help discern their level of interest and what their passions are so that we can create an online Octane registry of women that are ready for board consideration. We're also working on funding. We've heard some conversation about how important funding was. We've identified some great talent that's going to lead the tackling of the issues because we know we really have identified what the reasons are for the disparity in how women-owned businesses are funded. We're going to tackle those issues, identify real solutions and resources and connections. And also networks and resources. We want Octane to be the go-to place for women in business. And working again with our corporate and organizations throughout Octane, we're going to curate the most amazing resources and opportunities for women to become better informed. So in all cases, we're asking your help in identifying the women, in working on nonprofit accelerator, for example, the STEM fellows and the next gen. But when we focus on the women leaders of Octane, we want you to identify the women who we can best help. The next initiative is called Nonprofit Accelerator. And in the Nonprofit Accelerator, again, funded by Edwards Life Sciences Foundation, thank you very much, we use the Launchpad evaluation methodology and a great many subject matter experts to counsel, advise, and coach our nonprofit organizations so that they can become better, more effective, more efficient, build capacity, and help their communities more. So moving forward, again, once we have this great platform, over 14 nonprofits have successfully gone through the program. We've now extended our outreach. We're leaning into the STEAM, the A, including the arts this time, as well as a more inclusive approach to anything to do with life sciences, technology, and healthcare. And we're asking, again, your help. If you are engaged with a nonprofit organization that you think would benefit from this amazing program, please contact me and let me know so we can reach out to them and ask their consideration. Also, we need subject matter experts and we need judges. So if you're interested in performing either of those functions, please let me know. And then we have STEM Fellows, the third initiative. STEM Fellows is funded by Broadcom Foundation, and we thank them very much. And the STEM Fellows, we are dedicated to cultivating a diverse workforce of STEM students and young employees. And to achieve that, we have developed a program that deliberately outreaches into our diverse populations and then engages them in a wonderful year-long program that gives them in-person, on-the-ground, real-time experience in all of the life science and technology fields. We encourage them to attend the Medical Technology Innovation Forum, as well as a technology tech forum. We engage with them with subject matter experts in programs and webinars and other ways in which we give them opportunities to engage with their peers as well as people that they hope to work for in the future. So the ultimate end outcome here for us is to create a continuum, a pathway that we encourage our STEM fellows to follow, and that, as you heard earlier in the program, we can keep them here in Orange County because they know that we will have the very best support systems for them. And the last initiative that we're working on, relatively new, as Bill said, is the Next Gen. And the next generation of Octane and OC leadership has been working on this initiative for over a year now, and they're committed to making a difference. This year, through events and individual recruitment, we're going to do two things. We're going to build a cohort of leadership to bring fresh perspective, talent, and expertise to the live-work experience that is Orange County. We're going to work on arts and culture, leadership development, and ecosystem, and lifestyle infrastructure. So we're looking for that next generation of leadership that will step to the plate and help champion our ecosystem and the environment in which we live and work. And we're going to tap into the energy and perspectives of our young talent. We're going to the colleges and universities, and we're going to the young employees in our companies. And we're going to find purposeful ways to engage them and activate them in the future of the OC and the ecosystem. Again, we benefit from their perspective and their energy, but we're also hoping that this engagement helps retain them. So thanks to how well the Octane team delivered the initial experiences in the first year, we've been able to engage even more public and private organizations moving forward. This increased collaboration has allowed us to expand our outreach, reach many more opportunities throughout the communities in Orange County. And with the dedication of our volunteer leadership and Octane staff, the OFI initiatives will expand Octane's impact and influence to a great benefit of Orange County. We expect to have a good influence on what happens in the future in Orange County, as well as in our innovation ecosystem. And with that, and I remind you, I'm asking you to do something on each one of these initiatives. We need your help and support. And now with that, I'm going to share this stage with Dave Beck, our new Director of Launchpad and the Investor Relations. Dave?
Thank you so much, Linda. Good afternoon, everyone. I've been here at Octane for about 3 weeks. I'm a native of OC and have a pretty diverse work background. Studied entrepreneurship at SC and worked for very small companies all the way up to Fortune 100 companies like Coca-Cola and Beckman Coulter Danaher, where I was VP of customer service. I've managed teams as large as 600 folks and have managed a P&L of 200 million. At my last company, Cognizant, I was one of 600 startup leaders chosen for their rigorous small business incubator program, coincidentally called the Launchpad. And most recently, I was a leader in their artificial intelligence practice. So I'm very excited to be here at Octane and to help leverage my background to grow 55,000 jobs. And I'd love to talk to you about how we create companies and help entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams. So we're funded by the federal and state governments through the Small Business Administration. And in government terms, we're known as a Small Business Development Center, or an SBDC. And we're actually the top 5 pro bono SBDC out of 900 in the nation. And this is thanks in large part due to JC's leadership. So we call our pro bono SBDC the Launchpad. And what we focus on is later stage startups who have a business plan, who have raised capital, have a product proof of concept, a strong management team, and are now looking for institutional capital. So we receive several hundred applications on our website every year. We ensure that they meet the stated criteria, and we have a series of meetings with them where we refine their investor pitch deck. It's not unusual for a startup leader to go through 50 iterations of their investor pitch deck before we're ready to present them to our panel. This culminates in a Shark Tank type pitch to our panel, where that consists of subject matter experts and investors. We'll then take the top 25 startups and showcase them throughout our various conferences, and then connect them to the investor community, as Paul indicated earlier. What's really unique about the Launchpad is that we've been doing this for years, and so we have a database of hundreds of startups and how they've actually performed and their final disposition. If you wouldn't mind advancing the slide, I'd love to talk to you about the 36 different attributes where we actually grade these startups. And they fall into 5 categories here, as you can see: the market opportunity, the technical solution, the management team, the business plan, and then the investment opportunity. And what this does is it provides benefits to 2 key parties. The first is to the startup companies themselves. It helps them to understand what are their strengths and what are their areas of improvement to become capital ready. Furthermore, our predictive analytics can let them know if they improve in a particular area, how successful they'll be to get funded and raise capital in the future against their funded peers. And then for the investment community, one of the key benefits is that we provide a higher degree of confidence in the quality of the startup, because we have gone through some very rigorous vetting with that startup. And the proof really is in the pudding, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide. Since 2010, our Launchpad alumni have raised nearly $3 billion in capital and created over 17,000 jobs, and have generated over $2 billion in valuation in company exits. And in 2020 alone, we raised, or these Launchpad companies have actually raised nearly $500 million. And one example of a startup who graduated from Launchpad just about a year and a half ago is CLI Studios. You can see the picture of John Arpino, their founder and CEO. They've created a video-based collaboration platform to solve the challenges in providing 24/7 remote arts education that's using world-renowned instructors. So we showcased them at our TIFF conference about a year and a half ago, and helped them to raise over $7.5 million in capital. And as you can imagine, during these COVID times, their business model is flourishing right now. So in summary, I moved from a for-profit company that's very large and joined Octane because I have a passion for innovation, and I want to help entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams. And I believe that you're like-minded. So if you know of an entrepreneur who would like to go through a pro bono Shark Tank sort of process, please let us know. And also, if you know a subject matter expert who could potentially serve as a Launchpad panelist, please let us know. I'll now pass it over to JC.
Thanks, Dave, and good afternoon, everyone. So my name is JC Ruffalo. I was previously the director of the Launchpad Accelerator Program, as Dave mentioned, and I'm now transitioning to be the fund manager here called Elevation Ventures. And I'm thrilled and honored to excited and share with you this new opportunity that we're creating access to capital, creating a new Series A venture fund here in Southern California. And it really is our mission to improve the access to local capital for innovative and emerging tech and med tech companies here in Southern California. If you wouldn't mind switching to the next slide. Perfect, thank you. So unfortunately, 87% of the companies that participate through Launchpad that raise funding, like last year, 87% of the companies had to go outside the region of Southern California to find funding. Only 13% of the companies were funded here locally with local capital. So that's a huge gap. And we're excited to have and solve that problem here with Elevation Ventures. As you may know, a lack of local venture capital causes companies, jobs, and capital to leave the area, and all of that goes back to that region. If there's profit, goes back to that region to other markets. So we'd like to retain all of that here, retain the talent here, which I think is the big theme of the day, so we can create more jobs and create more innovation here to attract more companies to stay here and emerge and come here. What makes us fairly unique is our process utilizing the Launchpad program already. So we have a proven process and method to kind of due diligence on all of these companies that we're looking to potentially invest in. And then regions without, economic growth really suffer in those economies. So we want to really fix that. And as I mentioned, I've been leading the Launchpad program for the past 6 years, and I'm excited about making this transition. I firsthand witnessed the success of many companies that have come through, companies like Acorns, companies like Hyperice. Hyperice just recently raised about $50 million. I remember helping them back in 2015 raise their first $1 million. Now they've raised over $100 million, and they're almost $1 billion valuation. So there is no doubt that we're seeing incredible opportunities. There's no shortage of high quality deal flow. It's just a real shortage of capital. So that's what we're here to solve. If you wouldn't mind switching to the next slide. Perfect. So our fund, in terms of a summary, we're looking at making investments in Series A companies that are emerging in both tech and AI, using AI as the kind of fundamental, and tech being in cybersecurity, fintech, data analytics, and then in health tech with medical devices, digital health, biotech. We're going to be pretty broad, but we'll want to stay focused on companies that are in their Series A round of funding. What's really unique about our geographic advantage here in Southern California, it is actually second in the nation behind the Bay Area for venture capital dollars invested. That's pretty compelling. So the real problem is just the lack of capital, but by no means are we seeing a lack of deals. So really excited about taking the opportunity to invest in companies that are graduating and emerging through our Launchpad program. If you wouldn't mind switching to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we're going to leverage the Launchpad Accelerator. It's a proven process. We use data analytics. We have a world-class advisory committee, subject matter experts, investors, board members. So that really provides the information advantage for us as a fund. As Dave mentioned, since about 2010, we've had over 570 plus companies have gone on to raise over $2.8 billion in capital. 26 companies have been acquired for over $2.1 billion. And our diligence process already, we have a pipeline, a robust pipeline of over 60 companies identified that could be potential investment opportunities. So I'm really excited about this opportunity with Elevation Ventures. I think, as we talked about before, and Emil, Bill, Mike, and Jim all mentioned, really having the capital here, being able to invest in companies locally so that they stay here, we can support them, utilizing the whole Octane network will really be an advantage for all of us and really help us grow and elevate the ecosystem here. So with that, if you're interested in learning more, I know we're sending out some emails at the end here. Feel free to reach out to all of us here, especially about learning more about Elevation. Happy to find a time to connect with you all. So thanks for listening, and appreciate everyone's help here. So I will next transition it to Dr. Anthony Chang and Neil Sahota. Thanks, everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's been such a special hour and a half so far talking about the future of Orange County. And thank you again for the program committee for inviting me and Neil to talk about a bold vision. Since we're in the middle of pandemic, I think it's the ultimate. And I think we wanted to share a really bold vision with all of you. Next slide, please. So the bold vision, we're going to go right to the punchline, right, Neil? So to become the healthiest county in the country. And I think we have a wonderful opportunity here that no other area in the country has taken. But I think we would be very excited to be the first to use artificial intelligence and it's all of its capabilities to get us to be the healthiest county in the country. So we've named this AI for health, and also a secured URL, healthoc.ai. Next slide, please. So I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Bill for inspiring Neil and I to join him in this effort. And we're in the middle of the pandemic, so it's been very demoralizing to see our health system not being able to meet the challenges of a major pandemic, as we all know, and have felt the now 500,000 deaths, which is just absolutely heartbreaking as a clinician and also for someone involved in healthcare like Neil. Next. So how do we leverage artificial intelligence to help with maintaining healthcare? Well, as I said earlier, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's a wonderful time, according to Arundhati Roy, a famous author, to say that we can use it as a portal to a new world. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for Orange County to step up and march into the new, through the portal into the new world. Next, please. So I know that Neil has a special little video to show you.
Well, let me tee it up for everybody, because as Anthony is talking about, and my work with the World Health Organization, obviously there's a lot of need, and there's a lot of talk about AI and health, and some of it seems very futuristic, like Elon Musk and his Neuralink initiative. But I want to show you a video, and this is what's happening right now. I'm gonna let you watch the video. There's not a whole lot of audio. Don't worry about that. But watch what the gentleman is doing. Watch what happens with this robotic arm. So if we can play the video. Hopefully it was just on my end. It looked a little choppy, but if you watch the video in real time, you can see that somehow he's controlling that robotic hand with his mind, right? And where Elon Musk wants to put chips into our brains and use AI to decode our brain waves, this is a great example of where you get doctors and biologists and clinicians who understand the process, that the brain can still send signals to someone that's lost a hand or was born without one, but it triggers a process throughout the body. And if you looked above his right arm, I know his right elbow, I know it's hard to see, he's wearing a black band, and that's actually an IoT sensor array. And what those sensors are doing are monitoring any kind of muscle and tendon motion. And so they've used AI to decode what those things mean, meaning that if he wants to make a thumbs up, the sensor array will pick that up, the AI will decode it, and then move the robotic arm. So this isn't future stuff. This is actually happening right now.
Right, the future is here, right, Neil? And I was telling you earlier that last week there was an MIT meeting that presented a form of artificial intelligence in a neural net that's now capable of being embedded onto a microprocessor, which is a lot less capable than our cell phone. So the future has absolutely arrived and kind of snuck up on us. So as some of you know, artificial intelligence can be a little bit of a mystery to some of us, but it's essentially the trifecta of really advanced algorithms, thanks to our computer scientists. Also, a lot of cloud storage. Now it's capable of doing even AI in the cloud, as well as the tremendous improvement in processing, thanks to our gaming industry. And that, coupled with the escalating amount of healthcare data, including what's going to be coming, which is genomic sequencing, as well as wearable technology, I think gives Orange County a wonderful opportunity to really go into leveraging AI for healthcare in a very big way. Next. So we're talking earlier about having trouble keeping people here. I'm actually thinking if we do this right, in the way that Bill, Neil, and I had envisioned this, we can actually have people come here rather than just keeping people in Orange County. So Neil and I have a passion for public and global health, and I think one of the ways we can strive towards the healthiest county is to measure. So to measure first, to be the first in the country to measure all the health metrics that are in existence. So we don't even have to come up with a new index other than putting all of these together from the WHO or CDC, as well as some of the public health agencies in Orange County that are already doing this and come up with a metric that we can measure, and in a ticker tape fashion actually can show everyone how health in Orange County is doing. So if we first use AI to measure, then we can really leverage that information, very valuable information that's real time, to affect changes and policy formations, as well as ideas for health just here in Orange County. Next slide, please. So Neil, you want to tell them about what's on the right there?
Yeah. Could we go back to the previous slide for a second?
That was too quick. No, go back 2 slides. There you go.
There we go. Perfect. So you might probably looking at that kind of futuristic, and if you guess toilet, you're right. So that's actually a smart toilet. It's powered by AI. This is, again, real product.
Yeah.
And what it does is, as we produce our waste, right? Like if you're at home, what it actually will do is it'll actually analyze your waste as you're producing it. And so it can actually do early detection of illness or disease. So you talk about the biomarkers, these other things, the fact that we can catch something a lot earlier means that we can hopefully treat it, reverse course a lot quicker with a higher probability. So if we're talking about trying to become the healthiest county, this is one actually big way of doing it. And here's how we actually tap into that power of AI. So Anthony, I know a lot of people are probably a little freaked out about, I don't know if I want a smart toilet analyzing my waste, but the benefits are worth it, right?
Well, the vast majority of diseases, as you know, Neil, cardiovascular, diabetes, cancer, could be detected much earlier. And the fact that it's a tremendous burden is because we diagnose too late. So it's all about proactive diagnosis and public health. And on the left there is the Internet of Things, which is now 250 billion devices we have now that can be connected. And a growing percentage are healthcare related devices. So imagine that we're going to have the capability of monitoring as many residents in our county as possible to make a big difference in terms of being proactive about their health, and also make sure that we have healthcare equality around the county, because we are very sensitive inequities that are now in Orange County. And I think the pandemic has really illustrated that. Next. So I think the sense of awareness, education, and knowledge about Orange County's health index. This is a picture from NSA, and why can't we have this as a showcase to measure health in a large population and be the paragon for the rest of the country to look at, and the rest of the world for that matter, to look at how we can measure health and how we can improve health real time, which has never been done before. Next. So I would say, Neil, would you agree? Well, we're sort of at the Wright brothers stage of using AI for healthcare. But at least I think we're off the ground, it seems like. We're using AI for medical image interpretation, as some of you know, and now we're delving into areas of decision support. And despite IBM Watson Health getting out of the healthcare business, I think the best is yet to come. And maybe Neil can make a comment on that later. But I think we're, within our lifetime, we'll see AI and healthcare going into the space age, because I think the improvement is going to be very, very fast. And in trying to keep up with the technology improving so quickly, I think healthcare will catch up, leveraging the AI that we have available. Next slide, please. So I think Orange County is really well poised to be the world's first center and first population to leverage artificial intelligence and all of its capabilities to maximize the health for the population, including areas that are often neglected, like mental health and like wellness. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. So Neil, what is NEOM?
Could we go back to the last slides for a second? Yeah. So when people talk about, these gigantic AI ecosystems and, sorry, can we go back to the previous slide? We talk about these giant AI ecosystems, right, and these future cities. So China and actually Saudi Arabia are leading the way. They're doing these huge initiatives. So in China, they have a place actually called AI Town. So it's their futuristic city. They're incubating 1,000 AI startups. They're building universities, all these things. Saudi Arabia has dropped $500 billion so far into Project Neom, which is a city that's 211 times the size of San Francisco. That's going to be their future city. But everyone's thinking really, really big, right? And we know that broad strokes take great amount of times, whereas in like healthcare, there's a real immediate need. And I think we have the resources right here in the Orange County ecosystem. We've got the talent. We've got some of the funding. We've definitely got great people and great ideas. We've got great knowledge and other initiatives like AI Med with here, but we got to take the ball and actually start running with it. Nobody out there is trying to do something focused just on healthcare like we're talking about. I think this is why we have such a great opportunity and a golden moment to make Orange County shine.
Next slide, please. I think we can actually, Neil, also teach the rest of the world how we can measure health in the population. And I think it's especially relevant now as we head through the pandemic and hopefully into a post-pandemic. So sorry about the C word there, we forgot to exit out. But I think AI for Health and healthoc.ai have a tremendous opportunity to be the first in the world to accurately in real time measure the health of the population and really put effort and resources into improving the health of that county that can be measured across the population. So I think it's going to be a real wake-up call to population health and healthcare inequities and try to neutralize that as much as possible. Next slide, please. The thing is, Neil and I both have young children, and I think we work extra hard. And I think all of us can also leave an amazing platform behind for the next generation of Orange County residents so that this will go on forever. And I think it's an amazing opportunity to transform how we look at healthcare and leveraging the technology, but also maintaining the humanity in medicine and healthcare to really change the future of Orange County's health. So with that, Neil, any last comments?
I'll thank everybody for their time, and I hope you'll join us on this exciting journey. Obviously, we need all the help we can get to get this off the ground, but I think this is going to be fantastic for Orange County. And I think with that, we're going to hand it back to Jim Mazzo.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks very much, Neil and Anthony. Anthony, great to see you. Thanks for that. I'm still trying to figure out about the smart toilet. It could be an oxymoron right there. But I want to thank Bill and the whole team for an outstanding event. Hopefully everyone, I've been reading the general chat comments. Hope you can see the transformation that Octane has done over the last several years under Bill's leadership and the team. We really started to try to exceed all of your needs by bringing in capital, by bringing in entrepreneurs, by bringing in new ideas, and the whole AI initiative, aligning ourselves with great academic institutions like Chapman and UCI. So really thrilled to see what's going to go on. But again, as one of the questions Bill had to me about, how did the companies change during the pandemic? I go back to what I heard. You have to be able to move laterally, and we're going to continue to move laterally as we move forward and take advantage of opportunities and exceed any challenges we face. So Bill, thanks. Thanks to everyone here who participated. Janelle and the team, outstanding job, and I look forward to seeing all of you at the next Octane event that we heard about today or our future board meetings.